since yesterday afternoon and the president's talk to America, the scope of our conversation has broadened just a little bit. Where would you like to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really has. It has changed the conversation. It's still the same issue. The question now becomes the scope of how to deal with it.
So let's start big picture. The president yesterday, unconstitutional. If Jimmy Faircloth were going to do something today in response to President Biden's speech, what would it be?
Well, I wouldn't file any legal action because there's a long ways between making a political announcement and actually affecting law. So I think that first everyone needs to step back and understand what he's done. He's made a statement that has created a lot of tension, and it certainly will prompt litigation. But he has not yet. There is no rule. He's asked for a recommendation so they could create guidance for implementation of emergency rule. There's a lot packed into that qualifier. Even emergency rules have to follow the Administrative Procedure Act. There's a process. It's not just by fiat. There is a accelerated process to implement a rule. He hasn't done that yet. He hasn't even announced how they're going to do that yet. So first thing is I think you need to view what he said kind of for what it is. It's similar to the moratorium on evictions. He knew that was unlawful. He announced he might do it. The groundwork was prepared to oppose it, and then by the time it rolled out, it suffered a very quick death because it was unconstitutional.
So basically, was he just showboating yesterday? What do you think the president's end game yesterday was?
I think there was a lot of showboating in that. I do. I think it's showboating that has enormous implications because the soundbite potential out of that showboating was extraordinary. I mean, I sat and listened to it. I couldn't believe this. You'd have told me 5 years ago that a president of the United States would be making those kind of statements, essentially saying, forget about those liberty things. We've got to all pull together. I mean, it was a speech for socialism. It really was. It's extraordinary in terms of its breadth. But I do think there was a lot of showboating. It's very difficult for the federal government to impose mandates from top down. It's extraordinarily difficult to do that. And so I think they view that as a last resort to try to push through their final objectives on the vaccine. But he encouraged employers to do it during the summer. I think he pressured them to do it. And at that time, it's very important to understand the science. At that time, there was a general understanding that, vaccines will stunt the transmission of the disease and it will protect the person who receives the vaccine. And that's at the time that the president was saying, if you get the shot, you don't have to wear the mask. I mean, all of that makes sense. But what happened is the scientific evidence kind of departed from the message because now we've moved off of the transmission issue. And you'll have very little talk about the vaccine as a point to prevent transmission because it really doesn't. We now know everybody's back in the mask. We now know that the Delta variant runs through whether you're vaccinated or not. So the whole transmission interruption narrative is gone, and they know they've lost that scientifically. But what happened is all these employers started pushing out the ideas of mandates, these private employers. Now they're getting pushback, just like here in Louisiana. They're getting strong pushback. So in comes the White House, going to give them air cover from a high. And I think that what he's trying to do is kind of sweep all of these state issues that relate to private employers under the umbrella of the Supremacy Clause, saying, I'm the president, I'm going to impose a national immunity requirement. That's going to give cover to all you guys. Don't worry about what's going on in your state. Don't worry about getting sued because I'm going to come in and preempt this with federal law. That's really what I think is going on here. Now, I don't think he can do it. I think it's going to fall apart legally, but I really think that's what's going on.
Do you think the White House, do you think his advisors, do you think the White House legal team, whoever it happens to be, the DOJ, whatever, do you think they know in their heart of hearts it is unenforceable and, like you just said, the leaves are going to fall off the tree pretty fast? Oh,
yeah, I do. I absolutely do. But lawyers at that level are keenly aware of where challenges come from, and they know the obstacles and the walls they have to climb. So they certainly know the obstacles here. I think that in this situation, they've made a calculated decision that for lots of reasons, most of which are political, we need to make this announcement. We need to press forward. And look, keep in mind, this is politics. If everyone knows that the trend is trending back down, this thing spiked up a few months ago, and it kind of hit a peak, and now it's tipping back down. And by the time the lawsuits roll around and you really get mature into the litigation, if the numbers support it, they'll pull it down and claim victory. So you're just playing the news cycles largely is what you're doing with this. It's terrible that the American public is being given the worst of a civics lesson on what is essentially turned into a very politicized issue.
Crystal ball question, 30, 60, 90 days. Where are we pertaining to what the president said yesterday?
30 days, I think we'll be in lawsuits. 60 days, I think we'll be trending out of lawsuits to a resolution. I think that's probably it's a very fast track. There is a huge pushback coming from all of the, certainly the states with Republican governors. There's Republican AGs like our state. I know, General Landry was anticipating this, and his office is all over this issue. So there's going to be enormous pushback legally over the next 30 days. 60 days, I think you might start to see something. I mean, there may be issues that go up to the United States Supreme Court, but I think the real implementation issues that affect people, I think those will start to work itself out by 60 days. I really do.